So my presentation is on the drug LSD. So some background and history. Laboratory synthesized hallucinogens begin with the discovery of LSD-6. It is known in the street as microdot, bladder, window panes, Bart Simpson, Bartman, Blue Heaven, tabs, and most commonly acid. LSD is arguably the most potent drug known to humankind. During the Cold War, the CIA conducted clandestine experiments with LSD for mind control, information gathering, and other purposes. Over time, the drug became a symbol of the 1960s counterculture and eventually joining other hallucinogenic and recreational drugs at rave parties. Albert Hofmann, a researcher with the Swiss chemical company Sandoz, first developed LSD in 1938. He was working with a chemical found in agar, a fungus that grows naturally on rye and other grains. Hoffman didn't discover the drug's hallucinogenic effects until 1943 when he accidentally ingested a small amount and perceived extraordinary shapes with intense kaleidoscopic play of colors. 3 days later, on April 19th, 1943, he took a larger dose of the drug. As Hoffman rode home from work on his bicycle, he experienced the world's first intentional acid trip. Years later, April 19th came to be celebrated by some recreational LSD users as Bicycle Day. Some social correlates of its use. So, an estimated 5.5 plus million people in the US use hallucinogens in 2019, like LSD, which represents an increase from 1.7% of the population aged 12 years and over in 2002 to 2.2% in 2019. Several correlates of LSD use including higher levels of education, not being married, as well as higher levels of antisocial behavior and comorbid mental health and substance abuse disorders. So Ken Casey, so after volunteering to take part in Project MK Ultra, which was the CIA project, Ken, as a student at Stanford University, went on to promote the use of LSD. In the early 1960s, Casey and the Merry Pranksters, which were his like fans were called, hosted a series of LSD fueled parties in the San Francisco Bay Area. Casey called these parties acid test. Acid test combined drugs use with the musical performances by bands including the Grateful Dead and psychedelic effects such as fluorescent paint and black lights. And this is kind of like raves nowadays. And then there's also the hippie counterculture movement that was also related to this. So here are some historical trends in LSD use. During the 1960s, people began experimenting with LSD for spiritual and recreational purposes. Events in the 1960s, such as the Vietnam War, ultimately spurred the counterculture movement, which was based on dissatisfaction with the government. Because hippies were no longer wanted to participate in traditional society, LSD became popular as a way of escaping and dropping out of the established order. LSD began to experience a decline in popularity in both scientific and casual use during the 1970s. Scientific research ceased in the early 1980s. Researchers also stopped looking into the benefits of LSD in psychotherapy, though interest in the drug as a psychotherapeutic agent has reemerged in the recent years. Although LSD use continued to decline during the 80s, the drug never fully disappeared and actually experienced a brief resurgence in the 1990s. So, now some current trends of LSD use. From 2002 to 2014, the use of hallucinogens such as LSD remain relatively stable according to statistics from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Despite a decline compared with its use, LSD use continues to be an issue, especially among younger people. Data from the 2016 Monitoring the Future study, which examines drug trends among adolescent students nationwide, found that 1.2% of 8th graders, 3.2% of 10th graders, and 4.9% of 12th graders reported using LSD at least once in their lives. In the 2016 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 8.3% of young adults ages 18 to 25 reported using LSD at least once in their lives, with 3.4% reporting use in the past month. Almost 11% of people aged 26 and older had used the drug in their lifetime. A trend known as microdosing has been on the rise in the past few years. This is the practice of taking very small amounts of LSD or other um, psychedelic drugs over the course of several days instead of one larger dose all at once in an attempt to gain specific benefits such as increased productivity or creativity. So, how LSD is portrayed in the media. There is the belief that LSD induces psychotic reactions, which may result in extreme panic or even suicide. However, the sociologist Howard Becker has suggested that the likelihood of an experience is socially derived. In his research, Becker found that users given LSD in clinical settings where abnormal reactions were expected generally experienced the severe symptoms. And in addition to this, LSD is also portrayed as like a party drug or like a rave drug, a drug used, people go to concerts and different recreational activities like that. Treatment and prevention efforts. So, there's inpatient rehab programs that require patients to live at the facility full time for a period of 30 to 90 days while receiving treatment. This intensive atmosphere allows patients to focus 100% of their energy on recovery and provides a supportive network of clinicians, staff, and other patients in various stages of their own recovery. In contrast, outpatient programs vary in duration and intensity of the services provided. Programs may last 3 to 6 months, and some require patients to attend treatment session once per week, while others require 3 or more sessions per week, with sessions lasting anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. In addition to the inpatient and outpatient treatment, there's also cognitive behavior therapy. So, CBT is the most common form of drug abuse treatment, and it works by helping to change the thinking patterns that lead to substance abuse. Through therapy sessions, patients learn to develop new ways of managing stress or other negative emotions that do not involve drugs. CBT helps people find ways to cope with triggers, people, places, and things that lead a person to want to use LSD or other drugs. And then there's also motivational interviewing. A person's readiness to change is thoroughly evaluated, and their personal barriers to change are then approached in an individualized plan. The goal is to help them move to the next level of readiness so they can gradually move on from resistance to a desire to change, and then to a point where they actually start making the necessary changes. This approach is often used in the early stages of treatment or in people who have made many attempts to complete treatment but continue to relapse. And then lastly, the legislation, legalization of LSD. In 2023, the Food and Drug Administration issued guidance to researchers developing psychedelic drugs for medical use. And the FDA says its guideline uses the word psychedelics as shorthand for drugs like LSD. This guidance of um, shorthand gives psychiatric disorders and substance use disorders as examples of potential medical conditions to which psychedelics might apply. The changes in U.S. drug laws when it comes to psychedelics have happened at the state level. This has no effect on federal drug laws, which impose strict penalties and activities relating to scheduled substance. And at the federal laws, LSD are a Scheduled 1 substance, and substances in Scheduled 1 um, substances are on Schedule 1 because they have the highest risk for dependency and have no like medicine benefit. And Schedule 1 substances are illegal to possess, manufacture, and distribute. So, in the US now, LSD is not legal. And here are my references.